welcome to Turn the Page, the official podcast of the Syosset Public Library.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Turn the Page. I'm your host today, Jen, and today I am joined by the author of several books, but of a new book in particular, in a new genre for a new audience, which is very exciting, and it's a banger. I am having such a good time reading it, and I am so excited to chat about it. So welcome. Could I ask you to introduce yourself and your book, please?
Sure. My name is Emma Mills. I'm the author of Rachel West and the Fallen Starlet, which is my mystery debut. It's set in 2008 Hollywood, and it follows a tabloid copy editor named Rachel West who befriends a young Hollywood starlet. When that starlet is found dead, her death is kind of largely written off as an overdose, but Rachel believes that that is not the case, so she sets out to investigate.
Oh, I love it so, so much. And I have so many questions about the 2008 of it all, because just before we started recording, I was saying that it's emotionally difficult to come to terms with my mid-20s being like a period piece era now. But when you look back at the time, it is an absolutely very different age. Um, so before that, could you tell us all a little bit about your career, your journey as a writer, and some of your other works?
Yeah, sure. So I have previously published in young adult. The bulk of my books have been in young adult contemporary fiction. And I had one YA cozy fantasy at the beginning of the 2020s. Um, and my most recent publication before Rachel West was a middle grade graphic novel called The Greenies. So I've kind of been hopping around in genres lately. This is my mystery debut, as I said. So I'm very excited to be trying something a little bit different. But I've also really loved writing for children and for teens too. So it's all good for me. I dreamed of becoming a writer as a kid, and so I'm living the dream.
Oh, did it feel different writing for an adult audience than writing for middle grade or teens does?
In some aspects, yes. I think it was, you can be a little bit less restrained. You can kind of go to more extremes. I feel like that than you can sometimes for kids and teens. But a lot of the aspects are the same in terms of things that I like to write about. I like to write kind of character-driven stories. I like to write about, big feelings about kind of growth and development for a character over the course of a novel. And for me, that was kind of similar to what I've done in middle grade and YA. Like that's kind of a through line across all the genres that I've worked in so far. So some aspects different, some aspects are the same.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a lot of really great character work here. We think of mysteries as being, plot driven and pacey, and those elements are all there too, and they're great. But the reason I think the story hits so hard is because Rachel and Molly are so well drawn, and you are so invested in them early on. So can you talk about crafting them and their dynamic? Because their friendship really, really affected me.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think especially in the cozy mystery genre, I think sometimes you can find that the victim in the story is often a person who is difficult or a little bit of a villain, and that kind of is makes it a little bit more palatable. I don't know for the mystery itself, but I wanted to center it on a person who the readers would really come to either kind of relate with, come to like, come to maybe see themselves in, or kind of understand aspects of her character. And so I wanted Molly to be kind of a fully fleshed person. And I think Rachel, in the course of the book, is grieving kind of the loss of her friend, and so I wanted, the reader as well to feel that grief too. Whenever I have read it in the past, I know that I wrote it. I always end up feeling quite sad that Molly has passed.
Yeah.
That she is the victim of this story. But in order to kind of express those feelings, I wanted their friendship to be at the core of the story. You really kind of understood Rachel's grief. You understood her motivation to figure out what happened. Um, and to kind of get a full picture of the person who has been lost in all this.
Mm. I'd love to ask specifically why 2008. It was a super interesting time, I think, for, how celebrity culture has developed in America and the globe by now, probably. But can you talk about choosing that setting in time and if there was research that you did to evoke that age? I mean, I'm assuming, you lived through it as well. But what sort of stuff did you revisit to evoke 2008?
I it's part of the kind of journey of this book. It was originally set in 2008 because I started writing it in 2009. So at that time, it was not, a period piece. Although we said it's a little bit tough to acknowledge it as a period piece. But yeah, it was contemporary at the time that I first started writing it. So at that point, I was definitely motivated by celebrity pop culture at that time, by the treatment of women in media at that time. But obviously that wasn't a story that I finished and published, in that era. So that this was something that I revisited, just in the last few years. It was a story that I would kind of work on and then put away to work on something else and then kind of pick it back up, write a little bit over these last, 16 years, which is hard to believe. But when it came time for me to kind of really buckle down and finish it. I kind of had a point, a couple of years ago where I said, I want this to be the one I'm going to work on. I want this to be the one that's finally going to get finished and get published. I did consider at that time whether or not to, bring the story into the present day. So make it a Starlet from, 2023 or 2022 and have everything be current, or to keep it in 2008, in that kind of 2000s, early 2000s time. And I felt like if I updated it, the story itself would change because our nature, like the nature of fame and kind of our perception of it, celebrity culture, it's definitely changed since then. The internet with social media, kind of, I think celebrities sort of control over their image is definitely different now than it was back then. And so I felt like I wanted to preserve it in 2008 to kind of reflect the celebrity culture back then. It seemed to me kind of integral to the story because if we change the Starlet to be sort of a 2020s Starlet, kind of the nature of the story would change too. So I
Mm.
wanted to keep it back then.
That's a really, really interesting observation. Yeah, because something that I was thinking about a lot actually while I was reading that now, so many of these relationships like between celebrities and their fans that used to be so mediated by paparazzi or, TMZ or what have you are a lot of them now are like direct parasocial relationships because celebrities have TikToks or they have cameos where you can actually like maybe send them a message, and stuff like that. And it is such a different landscape. And I think also like since 2008, the conversation about the treatment of child stars has changed a lot too. So was that also driving some of your thinking in the story as well?
Yeah, I think uh, especially from that time period of those kids are adults now, and so we kind of know a lot of the different paths that the famous kids at that time have taken. But yeah, that's definitely been part of the conversation recently. um and something I wanted to consider was how does that affect someone kind of growing up in that environment, and kind of what is the path forward from childhood celebrity. So that's definitely reflected in Molly's story.
Yeah. It made me think a lot about how easy it is to mix up ideas of family and business and how those things becoming blurry when you're a small child can be such a confusing thing. So I remember early on, I think I might get the name wrong. I apologize, but Molly refers to her agent or somebody as uncle, for a time.
Mhm.
And that to me is so emblematic of the way that, and also like when your bosses are your parents or your agents too, and how confusing that is.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, that's her longtime manager when she was a
Mm.
child. She's referring to him as Uncle Cal. But yeah, it's I mean, I've thought a lot about it obviously, but it just has to be such a strange, environment to grow up in, kind of working as a child and in such an unusual environment. I just, definitely something I wanted to explore in this book.
Mm. So Rachel is a very she starts the story as a very isolated and vulnerable character who is hurting a lot. And through the events of this book, she is kind of thrust into a wider circle, specifically in how she develops an investigative team from among the residents of her apartment building. Could you talk a little bit about fleshing out the supporting cast? And if there was a favorite character or one whose voice came to you most clearly, because it does, that's where the kind of cozy feeling comes in, is from this sort of found family of investigators.
Yeah, I love found family. That is one of my very favorite favorite of the tropes. And I think it's probably found in all of my work. Yeah, Rachel is as you said, very isolated at the start of the book. And yeah, over the course of this investigation, she sort of teams up with a young paparazzo. She kind of gets help from the different residents of her apartment building. I liked the idea of a group of investigators, of amateur investigators, whose skills, in their day-to-day lives kind of contribute to the investigation. So Rachel kind of recruits one of her neighbors who is a nurse who has a medical background. One of her neighbors is a TV. He was a former TV writer for a CSI type show, so he has a lot of experience in crafting fictional murders and in investigations. So she kind of builds a group, whether intentionally or not. They're kind of gathered around her in order to investigate what happened, and that kind of brings them together in that found family sense. In terms of a favorite character, the TV writer Richard, who formerly wrote for that CSI type show, he now writes for a children's show that's a lot like Dora the Explorer. He was one of my favorite out of the group to write. I think I don't normally like see my characters very clearly, but he was someone who I could just see him like he was a real person. And he's kind of working on a screenplay over the course of the book called it's an action thriller called Nuclear Nucleus, and that just was so much fun for me to write those excerpts and to imagine that screenplay that he very much wants to get produced.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, with him you capture particularly well the sort of the absurdity inherent in Hollywood on like so many levels because especially just like coming from like a CSI type background and ending up on a children's show, I think that's just such a yeah, like really beautiful absurdity. And like just the ways that a career can move in Hollywood just being so
Yeah,
bizarre. But I
I
do
know.
love that everybody's indirect journeys are sort of what brings them together and what makes them a valuable contribution to the team, which is also really important for Rachel, I think, because her journey has been really indirect as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those things where I think she could not have done it without the group. She needed that team around her, and that's part of her personal journey was kind of coming to realize that she can sort of let other people into her life. On the surface to help uncover this mystery, but also just kind of in general for her as a person that she can kind of let those walls down and form new relationships. So that's one of my favorite aspects of the book is her kind of journey there.
Absolutely. So my favorite character among the residents is Fadia. Is that how you say her name?
Yes, that's
Okay.
perfect.
Absolutely delightful. I would love to know about shaping her as a character.
Yeah, I've talked about this before. I went to college with a girl named Fadia who definitely inspired this character. Um, she was just a people person in a way that I just really admired. At that time, I'm pretty shy, pretty introverted. So we had a class together, and yeah, she was just bubbly and always chatting with people and kind of just really fun and personable. And so that was my kind of launching off point for the character of Fadia, who is someone who works from home but has built an amazing community around her. She's just extremely kind of gregarious. She's very resourceful. She is a film buff. I think just I think she's sort of an ideal of like someone that Rachel as well kind of admires of kind of her skills with people, her sort of ability to kind of reach out and bring people in. I think is something that Rachel definitely learns from over the course of the book.
Mm. It's probably a weird thing for like a podcast host to be saying, but I did relate to Rachel on the level of a sort of more introverted person. Um, and you do sort of see people like Fadia as a little bit magic, right? It's like, wow, you must have magic powers, like to move to move through the world so confidently and with such a great circle around you. She's very aspirational, and I just really loved the way that the characters vibe together. Because as we've talked about, there are serious elements to the story about how the media treats celebrities and what it does to young women. But the dynamics between the core characters really it gives it a lightness that carries you through those themes that so that you can experience them and feel them, but also, retreat to the characters and feel warmth.
That's exactly. I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you. It's exactly what I was going for. So I appreciate that.
So this is described on the website as the first in a series, and no spoilers or anything. But are there any hints at what we can expect from Rachel in the future?
That the sequel is in progress for sure. It's expected next year to come out. So yes, I think it will be exploring a little bit more about kind of Rachel's past. It will be definitely still exploring some kind of media themes, some entertainment industry themes. We're looking at television, specifically children's television.
Ooh.
So that is we're going to kind of continue to explore the those kind of child stars. Where are they now? Themes in book two.
Oh, wow. That's great. Well, I can't wait for the next one. And I thank you for taking the time to talk to me and our listeners. I'm very excited to recommend this one at the library.
Oh, thank you so much. This has been so much fun.
Thanks. All right, listeners, and you should check out Rachel West and the Fallen Starlet. It's available now. It will be available as of the time that you hear this. So please head to your favorite bookstore or library, or wherever you like to go for your books. Do you have a favorite bookstore or place that you like to send folks for books?
Yes, the novel neighbor is my local indie.
Ooh, that sounds lovely. I'm all doing this to compile, a travel list of bookstores. So thank you for help. All right. And thank you again, listeners. It is now time to close this chapter. We'll see you next time.
It's time to close this chapter of Turn the Page. Join us for the next episode.